Good morning, guys. It's awesome to be with you. We just heard with you. And yeah, it's nice to actually again emphasize that it is important and you are important. So we love spending time with you and we are so thankful that you are spending time here with us at Rhema CC. Guys, I'm Lindy Jones and it's an awesome experience to be able to do Sunday mornings with you. I just want to say a big happy birthday to my littlest man out there. We have a 4-year-old in our family as of today, so happy birthday to Mr. Ari Bari. I am so thankful for you and thankful that you make the world so much brighter. And if it's your birthday today or in the coming days, a big happy birthday to each of you as well. I'll just remind my husband that yes, it is my birthday coming up, so happy to just put that out there just in case you're needing that little reminder, but you're getting pretty good now, so yeah, it's a good way to do it without, making sure I'm not making it too obvious that it is my birthday coming up. So for those of you as well who might be sharing a birthday, March is a good time to be born and it's a good time to be celebrated. So I hope you do get a chance to be celebrated. Guys, every one of you, every listener, I just want to remind you that you are so precious and that you are a treasured gift from God, and I hope you know that. Yeah, I hope that's a good way to start, really, isn't it? I'm thankful for you and thankful for life because it is a treasure. Now this morning, I do apologise, I'm losing my voice already. I don't know what's happening there, but yeah, it's just one of those things that just goes every so often, so I will do my best. This morning we are leading obviously up to Christmas because we're very, very close. So this time next weekend will be Easter Sunday, and it's I always find Easter in March, it feels like it's a little bit too close. It's kind of like, oh, you sort of do Christmas and then it's Easter. But yeah, it was certainly pretty cool when I was a kid and my birthday landed on Easter Sunday. I thought that was pretty special. But yeah, I know I still, as an adult, I'm kind of going, oh, did we just have Christmas only a few weeks ago? Because it really feels like that. But anyway. But yeah, today we're talking about Luke 23, 26 to 43. But really more so, I'm actually focusing on really the criminals that kind of did Jesus' death with him. I'll read through the verses and then we'll focus in as the morning goes on a little bit more of where we're going today, and I'll just explain why. So starting from 26, and as I said, it's Luke 23, 26 to 43. As the soldiers led him away, they seized Simon for Cyrene, who was on his way in from the country, and put the cross on him and made him carry it behind Jesus. A large number of people followed him, including women who mourned and wailed for him. Jesus turned and said to him, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me, weep for yourselves and for your children. For the time will come when you will say, blessed are the childless woman, and the wombs that never bore and the breasts that never nursed. Then they will say to the mountains, fall on us, and to hills, cover us. For if people do these things when the tree is green, what will happen when it is dry?" 2 other men, both criminals, were also led out with him to be executed. When they came to the place called the Skull, they crucified him there along with the criminals, one on his right, the other on his left. Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." And they divided up his clothes by casting lots. The people stood watching, and the rulers even sneered at him. They said, "He saved others, let him save himself if he is God's Messiah, the chosen one." The soldiers also came up and mocked him. They offered him wine vinegar and said, "If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself." There was a written notice above him which read, "This is the King of the Jews." One of the criminals who hung there hurled insults at him. "Aren't you the Messiah? Save yourself and us." But the other criminal rebuked him. "Don't you fear God," he said, "since you are under the same sentence? We are punished justly, for we are getting what our deeds deserve. But this man has done nothing wrong." Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus answered him, Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." Yeah, some big stuff in there. We're going to explore that this morning, and as depressing as it might seem, I think there's hope in there too. Anyway, enjoy this, guys. We are going to be back very, very soon. For now, we're going to hear some more. We're going to hear Control by Jasmine Murray. So enjoy. See you soon, guys. Welcome back, guys. That was Authority by Stars Go Dim. And it is a really good time of year for us to spend thinking about the authority that God does indeed have over our lives, and to treasure that, and to be able to just understand that he holds us so perfectly in the palm of his hand, and that we can surrender all authority to him, because he's going to do something good with it, and he treasures us, and he won't let anything, fully form to a point where we just cannot keep going. He won't have us surrendered to a point where we just have to give up on the purpose and plan that he has for our lives, because he knows what he's doing. He well and truly is in authority. So thank you, Jesus, that you are. Anyway, guys, this morning we're talking Easter, sort of the lead up to Jesus' death. Now, it's quite a big passage that we've been looking at. We've been looking at Luke 23:26 to 43. And this is really pretty much where Jesus is actually on the cross. So it's leading up to him ending up on the cross itself. And just the interactions that he has with the people, and the interactions he has with the criminals before him, or either side of him actually, as they're placed on the cross. Now, a few weeks ago, I don't know if you remember, I mentioned that I had asked just even friends and family on social media what their favourite Bible stories are. The books of the Bible, or the stories in there, the people that really grab them and give them something to think about. And there was quite a few, there's actually quite a lot. It was actually interesting because I had people that I hadn't heard from a long time sort of just throwing their 2 cents in and letting me know what sort of people in the Bible grabbed their attention and why. And it was interesting to hear the different thoughts and just read for myself, the different aspects of people's lives that grab other people's attention. And my brother, who my dad has actually mentioned, my dad was here for a Father's Day. He was for a Father's Day recording we did, and that was back in September, obviously, last year. And he mentioned my brother and just his own journey, and the fact that he's a guy he's come and he's gone, he's done his own thing, but he certainly has a strong, firm faith. And it's, it was his response that actually grabbed me the most out of all of the people that responded. The person or people that grabbed him when I asked, my own Facebook world, who in the Bible really kind of got you? Now, he said that it was the guy, the criminal beside Jesus as he was dying on the cross. And I thought that was pretty cool. It was actually one of those moments that I sort of found myself nodding, going, yeah, actually, this guy, we had 2 different responses there. We had one guy who was saying, this is ridiculous. If you could get us out of here, but instead you're choosing otherwise, and you could actually prove that you are actually the Messiah that you say you are. And that was one response. On the other side of Jesus, we had a criminal who recognized that Jesus was something pretty special, and that he was the only way that he was going to get a green light and an open door on being in heaven once that last breath had been breathed. And I think that it's quite insightful when we look at this story, because it still highlights how things are done today. We are often mocked for our beliefs. We are mocked for the things that we stand up for. And usually that is in relation to our Christian faith. There can be a lot of people that don't understand it, and they can ridicule and they can make us uncomfortable because of what we stand on as knowledge and as our truth. When I say our truth, I mean the truth. So we see that in the world today, and looking back at this scene here as Jesus is dying on the cross, and just how horrendous that was for him. Same things applied. There was still that mocking. There was still that sense of, oh yeah, if your God is real, then you'll have to prove it to us. Except they were casting those words at Jesus himself as he was dying. Then we see the other side. Now, the other side is where Jesus is having a conversation with someone who's repentant, someone who recognises that he deserves to be there. He should have been, it was justified that he was placed on the cross. And yet he was able to look at Jesus and know that he didn't deserve it and try and make sense of that himself. And I think that's what's really cool, is that we have a choice in how we perceive things. We have a choice if we're going to be part of those who mock and scoff and laugh and question, or we have a choice in terms of how we're going to receive the knowledge that we have. Are we going to be remorseful? Are we going to ask for a fresh start? Are we going to ask that, we recognise what we've done wrong, but we're going to ask that Jesus forgives it and allows us to be there with him? And I think it's a pretty powerful scene. I'm going to leave you right now just to give you some time to think about that, because there is a lot in this passage, but a lot in terms of just how we can examine and just question our own heart. Where are we at the moment? All right, we will leave it there. I hope you enjoy this next song. I'm going to see you guys probably around 8:15, so I'll see you then. All right, bye guys. Good morning. It is awesome to have you guys here with us here at Rhema CC. I am Lindy, and we were just listening to Pressure by Kobe James. Hope you're not under too much pressure yourself today. Hope today is actually reasonably comfortable to easing into. Now this morning, guys, I just want to remind you actually before we get started, I've got a couple of things to run through with you. So we've got 8:30 this morning, if you stick around, if you're able to stick around with us. We've got Greg Laurie with A New Beginning, and we also have Church on the Radio at 10 o'clock. So I can't think off the top of my head where we're actually going today for Church on the Radio, but it's obviously going to be one of the awesome churches on the Central Coast. It's a really great way for us to really just spend some time looking at what's actually happening around us in different churches, because I don't know about you guys, but I can't always get out to go and just be a part of different things happening on the coast. But I think it's this service here at Rhema C, it's just CC, I can't talk. It's just a nice way to just kind of get a feel for what's actually happening out there. So stick with us this morning if you can't get out. If you're not able to get out this morning, 10 a.m, as I said, Church on the Radio. I'm sure that it will be an awesome time just to kind of, sort of check in and just know what else is happening on the coast here, and just, sort of feel like you've been a part of church in some way. Good option for you if you can't get out. So today we are actually, before I do that, I want to address a couple of things, because I've just realised that I'm a bit of a goose, and I actually earlier this morning announced that Christmas was coming up, and I don't know why I said that, but anyway, Christmas is coming up, but it's going to be another 9 months-ish away. So that's not what I meant. I meant to say that Easter is coming. Don't know what happened there. And I also want to apologise for my mic, because I think it was a bit ruffled and uncomfortable for a little while back in the last little bit. So I apologise for that, and hope that this is a little bit better now. But making it work as best as I can. So this morning we are talking. I was trying to, over the next few weeks and in the previous few weeks, talking about the lead up to Easter and sort of focusing on things from a different perspective as we look at the Easter story. So a couple of weeks ago we spoke about forgiveness, the relevance of that. It's a great time to really focus in on forgiving and being forgiven. And last week we spoke on the Garden of Gethsemane, where Jesus was in there, and just what a powerful scene that actually is. If you go back and have a look into that, then you'll be able to see exactly what I'm talking about. We've spent a little bit of time this morning talking about Luke 23, 26 to 43. And this itself is actually sort of those verses there. We were talking about the criminals that were actually found on either side of Jesus as he was dying, and just how different responses they had. How those same things can actually be seen really in a lot of people today. The attitude behind Jesus and their approach to Christian faith and Jesus himself, and whether or not they want to know more, whether they want to scoff at the idea that there was a man who came to change the world, or whether people are open to that and open to understand that he was actually sent for a purpose, and he offers that key to an eternity that all of us can only hope for. It's kind of insightful when we look at that passage itself. Now, I also think it's kind of important to sort of look at some of the other the Gospels of the Bible. So Luke, for those of you who don't know much about the Bible, there's 4 main Gospels. So Matthew, Mark, Luke, John are kind of like, they're almost like this sort of story behind Jesus, and they give you context of his life and give you detail of the stories that transpired, but from their own perspective. So if you're new to the Christian faith, you can actually get a bit of insight into who Jesus was through 4 different people mainly, like in terms of specifics, if you like. That's the best way I can explain it. I hope I've done that justice, but I want to sort of brush over a few different things that were examined about this one particular time where Jesus was actually dying, and examine a few other insights from, we've looked at Luke itself. Now we're going to look at pretty much Matthew and Mark, and I'm just wondering the best place to start. Okay, so we'll start with Mark 15:33-35. At the 6th hour, darkness came over the whole land until the 9th hour. And at the 9th hour, Jesus cried out in a loud voice. Now, I can't pronounce this very well myself, but Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani. I can't pronounce that, and those of you who are actually theologically trained will probably have a lot more better insight into that. But generally it means, my God, why have you forsaken me? And it's written here, when some of those standing near heard this, they said, listen, he's calling Elijah. I think it's really important to really think about that moment on the cross. He was calling out to God in that last moment. You look at that moment on the hill where he's been tormented and been in excruciating pain for, at that point, between 6 and 9 hours. So at the 6th hour, darkness came over the whole land until the 9th hour. And at the 9th hour, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, Eloi, Eli, Eloi, lama sabachthani. Again, I'm terrible with that, but it basically means, my God, why have you forsaken me? Guys, I just want to emphasize that it's okay to have those moments where it feels like God has abandoned you. He hasn't. And I think look at Jesus in that moment on the cross. Now, certainly his situation was a lot different to what any of us will ever experience, hopefully. But the same understanding, I think we can have moments in life where we just feel like God has completely turned his back on us. But he doesn't. He doesn't turn his back on us. He's there with us in that moment. And it is so important for us to remember that we need to use those moments if it is dark, if it's uncomfortable and distressing, if it's highly, highly devastating stuff that we're carrying or confronting. And looking at this moment on the cross and considering the moments, those last moments Jesus spoke, the words of others, listen, he's calling Elijah. We can just gain so much insight from even just that. Just understanding that it's okay to call out to God in every hour. And he will hear us. He might hear us amongst the darkness, but he does hear us, and he's not going to cut us off. He does hear those groans. I always think that the curtain in the temple, the moment that it was over and that curtain in the temple was torn, that was just such a pivotal moment of breaking traditions and breaking down religion to more of an understanding of what relationship is all of it. There's a lot in it. I'm sort of pondering it myself as I'm talking, but I think it's really important to just consider the whole scene. Now that, as I said, that came from Luke, so that's another aspect of what was happening upon the cross at that time. And Yeah, there's a lot to think about when you think about Easter, isn't there? A lot to consider in terms of what actually took place and why those things took place. And then how do we apply those same things to our life today? I think that's the main point of all of it, understanding what Jesus went through, what he endured, and understand the depth of context that went behind it, but also how do we then apply that to our lives today? I don't know if we can ever fully get that answer, but we can certainly try. And I encourage you just to do that today. If you can get a chance to do that, think about it. Think about how you can take what is written and apply it to your life. All right, guys, I'm out of here for a little bit, and I'll see you guys in not too far off. So I will see you then. A big welcome back to you guys. Nice to have you coasties with us. I hope you're enjoying your Sunday morning. That was another In the Fire by United. I hope your day's going all right, guys. I hope things are kind of, going to plan and that things are evolving beautifully for you. If they are not, then I've got some good news for you. Guess what? I do have something to brighten your day a little bit more. So let me get to it. Now, you guys may have heard during the week we've actually got a giveaway here at Rhema CC. For King and Country. Now, let me just I'll just give you a little bit of a background, because I have to say this is the one that you guys have been waiting for. Now, for King and Country, they're heading to our shores for their homecoming tour in May and June this year. I've actually got my tickets ready. But the exciting news for you guys is that we here at Rhema CC have got 4 double passes for the Newcastle concert, and that's on the 1st of June, Saturday the 1st of June, and we are giving them away. So if you are interested, if you haven't done so already, go to our website, rhema.cc, and click on the Win Free Tickets button. Now you'll find that under the for King and Country banner, just to go into the draw. So Monday, as in tomorrow, 25th of March, we'll draw the 4 winners, and you guys, if you are the lucky ones, will be notified by email. So hopefully that's brightened your day a little bit more. I know that it certainly brightened my days or day when I found out that they were coming here, and yeah, I hope that you get to come along too. All right, let me introduce myself. I don't think I've done that yet. So I am Lindy. I'm here at Rhema CC, and I'm a coastie just like you guys. And today most Sundays we sort of explore different themes or different ideas of different things that might be a social type thing. It might be a theological type thing. There's lots of different avenues we kind of go through on a Sunday morning and just sort of explore different things. Over the last few weeks, we've just sort of been building up to Easter, and just, even just the simplicity of just taking in those little details that we often don't when we think about the Easter story. I know for myself, I can get a little bit dry with how I sort of interpret the Easter story and Christmas, if I'm really honest. I think year in and year out, when you're kind of part of the Christian world, it just naturally happens sometimes, and we sort of need to be reminded about the details just to sort of rejuvenate things and just give us that fresh perspective on just the sacrifice that Jesus made, and who he was, and who he encourages us to be because of the way that he lived. So we've spoken the last couple of weeks, we spoke about forgiveness, we've spoken about the Garden of Gethsemane, and just that real change, and not necessarily change, but just that insight into his experience with emotion and just how real he is, or he was in that moment. And today we've been talking about the cross, the actual cross as he's on the cross. And we've spoken so far about both the criminals on either side of Jesus, and we've briefly explained or gone into sort of the idea of, just the explanation of the Gospels. So Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So if you're new to Christianity, would all be quite new to you. If you think of it like those 4 books of the Bible, they're almost like, if we apply that to today, it's almost like your social media, people videoing what's happening as it's going, and here's the proof. That's kind of what we're seeing here in these 4 Bible chapters. So if you're looking for more information about who this Jesus guy was, that's a great place to start. And that's actually from the New Testament. So Jesus was a game changer. So the Old Testament is kind of, there was a different way of doing things back in the Old Testament, just to kind of just make things as clear as I can with as little, as quick as I can, and I don't even know. But yeah, so from the New Testament, which is Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, is where things start to kick off. That's where we start to see who Jesus is, who he was, and what his life was all about. So if you're interested in finding out more, that is a great place to start. But I just want to spend some time now looking at, because we've already spoken about Matthew, Mark, and Luke from memory. Now we're looking at a little bit of John, and his insights they're all a little bit different because they're all their own observations or understanding of what was happening for Jesus at that time. So John's is, again, it's a little bit of different, bit of a different spin on what was happening, or different understanding of what was happening for Jesus in that moment. So the death of Jesus based on John, and this is from 28 to, I'm actually going to go, I was originally going to go to 30. These are the verses, but I want to go down a little bit further, just because I looked at some other stuff that I thought, I hadn't really thought about that. I'll just read that to you now. Jesus knew that his mission was now finished, and to fulfill Scripture, he said, I am thirsty. A jar of sour wine was sitting there, so they soaked a sponge in it, put it on a hyssop branch, and held it up to his lips. When Jesus had tasted it, he said, it is finished. Then he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. So that's 28 to 30. Now let me just flow on from there. It was the day of preparation, and the Jewish leaders didn't want the bodies hanging there the next day, which was the Sabbath, and it was a very special Sabbath because it was Passover week. So they asked Pilate to hasten their deaths by ordering that their legs be broken. Then their bodies could be taken down. So the soldiers came and broke the legs of the two men crucified with Jesus, but when they came to Jesus, they saw that he was already dead, so they didn't break his legs. One of the soldiers, however, pierced his side with a spear, and immediately blood and water flowed out. Now this is verse 35. This report, it's all in brackets, is from an eyewitness giving an accurate account. He speaks the truth that you also may continue to believe. These things happened in fulfillment of the Scriptures that say, not one of his bones will be broken, and they will look on the one they pierced. So originally I was just going to explore the very first part of it, and I am going to go back to that in a moment, but I just wanted to emphasize here, again, if you're someone who, like the Bible is all a new concept to you, what it's actually doing, it's tying the Old Testament, where there's a lot of prophecies. Now, prophecies are things that have been, they're sort of insight into what is about to take place or will take place, the things that can't be explained. So some people might say, I really just believe that God is stirring in this way and I can't make sense of it. And they'll put down details, and there'll be things that there's, God speaks in lots of different ways. We do have our Bible as our foundation, obviously, for, we can go back for reference. But God speaks. He's not going to cut himself off and just say, I'm a strictly black and white God. And the prophecies that they're talking about in these verses here are actually going back, hundreds and thousands of, 1,000 years before Jesus was born. And these things were saying that, this is going to unfold. Not one of his bones will be broken, and they will look on the one they pierced. So there's just some really crucial things there that you kind of go, wow, this guy, this Jesus was, his life was foretold. There was glimpses of who he was going to become, who he was, what he was designed to do before any of it came to be. And I just think that's really, really cool to sort of reference that. But to go back to what I was originally going on to, the point that I was going to sort of sit on for a little bit in this particular section, are just simply the words, when Jesus had tasted it, he said, it is finished. Then he bowed his head and he gave up his spirit. Now, what I try to do on a Sunday morning is try to bring whatever we're exploring and sort of twist it into how we can do things with that in our own life. How do we apply what we read? How do we apply the things that we're challenged by? How do we use that stuff and turn it back so it's useful in our day-to-day for God? So I just want to leave this with you before we sort of close this little bit and head off to our new song. But I just want to read a few verses to you. 2 Timothy 4:7, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. 1 Corinthians 9:24, do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one gets the prize? Run in such a way as to get the prize. Proverbs 4:25, let your eyes look straight ahead. Fix your gaze directly before you. Philippians 3:14, I press on toward the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus. And finally, Isaiah 40:31, but those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Why am I throwing these verses at you? Sorry, my voice is going because I've had this viral thing all week. But anyway, why am I asking you or throwing these verses at you today? Well, I think it's really important to acknowledge that Jesus knew when his time was done, when his purpose had been fulfilled, when he had breathed his last breath, because everything that he was called to do, he did it. He followed through, and we talked last week about the Garden of Gethsemane, and he followed through. He did what he was called to do. And there was that moment of finality. It is finished. And I think us being aware of how we need to live our lives. Are we doing things the way that we need to be doing? Can we get to the end with good conscience and know that we can stand up and say, I've fought the good fight, I've finished the race, I have kept the faith? Are we doing things constantly to the point where we know that when we take that last moment, at that very last second of our lives, and I hope and pray that that's not going to be for quite some time, because life is beautiful, but I think it's just that genuine seeking to know or to understand fully that you've given it all your all, everything you've been called to do. So it's a big call, guys. I'm just going to urge you today, spend some time and look at these stories through the different Gospels and consider, what can I learn from this? How do I apply this to my life? What is God calling of me? And how do I serve him as best as I can? Guys, I'm going to leave it there. I hope you enjoy this song, and I'll be back in a little bit. See you soon. Welcome back. That was The Cure by Unspoken. Guys, you're tuning into Rhema CC. I'm Lindy, your Sunday morning host, and guess what? It's almost 10 o'clock. We're getting closer to church on the radio. Now, this morning, if you happen to be sticking around with us, Rick Broom is going to be actually a special guest of Faith, Hope, Love Church, and they're at Foresters Beach. So they'll be talking all things Rhema CC. So if you happen to be sticking around with us this morning, you'll be able to hear all of that. And you are more than welcome there if you obviously can get out and about if you're close to the area. I'm sure they'd love to have you, as would most of the churches on the coast. So we've got some great churches out there. We actually have some pretty fantastic people working in them. And I hope you're able to get out and spend some time with those who are part of your church world, part of your Christian community, because there really is nothing like just spending some time, like real quality time with each other. And we need it, don't we? We need community. We need to be able to just bounce ideas off each other. We need to be able to be real, to be able to just say, hey, you know what, I'm struggling with this, or, I'm really excited about this, or whatever. But I think there's just this need to just do real life together. So if you can get out, whether that happens to be this morning to hear Rick, or to get out and see some of your everyday, church community, that'd be pretty cool too. But by all means, stick around here at Rhema CC as well and hear Rick share a little bit more about Rhema CC and how things are kind of, eventuating, how they're sort of exploring. And there's a lot happening here. It's pretty cool. Anyway, I have gone off track, so I will try and get back. This morning, guys, we've been sort of tying everything together, looking at the Easter story. Now, that obviously is limited because we're only halfway there. We've only been talking in the last few weeks about the lead up to Jesus dying on the cross. Now, the cool thing is that that's not where it ends. And next week we'll explore the other exciting part of all of it. But this week, it's certainly important for us to just take some last few moments as we build up to Good Friday to think about why we do the things we do over Easter. Tradition can be a part of why we do things, but we don't actually necessarily know why. So sometimes we just need to just tap into looking at the different aspects of the Christian stories and the Christian, just the backdrop of why we make the decisions we do. And the whole, I don't know, there's just different traditions that different denominations even follow through on based on what the belief system behind it is. And I think it's just a good time as Easter progresses just to kind of look into Jesus, who he was, why then we do the things we do. So Passover has been a good thing that I've traditionally been involved in when we were actually involved more so with an Anglican church back in Sydney. Now, that was pretty cool because I had never experienced anything like that. So to be able to go and just see and experience things as they would have evolved or taken place, in Jesus' time, that was kind of cool. And, we have other things that are happening on the coast at the moment. I know for our church, we've got an Easter egg hunt. That's something we do every year. Community event, we just bring people in and it's just that opportunity to sort of share Jesus and his story. And, there's different ways of celebrating Easter and the sacrifice that Jesus made. And more than anything, though, I think if we can just stop today and just take some time to really focus on all the different avenues of Easter, whether it's a need to forgive, whether it's a need to forget and move on and allow Jesus to forgive us, because sometimes we hold on to the things that we know need to be forgiven, that he has already dealt with, that he's sorted out. But we hold on to it in our own mind. We talked about that a few weeks ago. Or whether it's an aspect of understanding that Jesus, he exercised emotion because he was so real. And we saw that in the Garden of Gethsemane. Talked about that last week. And then this week, you're discovering and looking at the way that the two criminals approached Jesus and how they, one scoffed, one laughed, one mocked. The other turned to him and said, can I be there with you? If we're going to be at the end here, I need to know I'm going to be on the other side of this with you. And Jesus obviously said, you'll be there with me in paradise. You're coming along. So those same principles and that same attitude we see playing out even today. And we see it constantly. We see Christians being mocked constantly because of their beliefs. And I think it's just important for us to be reminded of how to deal with that. But more so, I think it's just remembering what we can learn from Jesus himself and the way that he responded to the situations that unfolded before him. That servant heart, that willingness to go the distance even when it literally cost his life. That was, there is just so much in that for us to learn. So I just want to urge you guys, prayerfully throw yourself at God. Prayerfully throw yourself into the hands and feet or in counselling we talk about walking in the shoes of someone else, walking their path with them. This is the same sort of thing. Looking at the world like Jesus did. What does it look like? How do we love like Jesus loved? How do we give as much as we can? How do we get to that point? Well, we know we've got to the end of everything and we can happily and peacefully say, it is finished. I've done everything I've been called to do and it's time to move to the next thing. And that's what we saw in this scene with Jesus. It is finished. And what a horrible moment that must have been to watch, but just the hope that came from that complete surrender. And I just want to encourage you this morning, keep praying about how you can give your all to Jesus, because, with a heart that's willing to surrender, God can just do so much. And you have so much purpose. So I just hope and pray you're able to see that more and more as your week goes on. I'm going to go, guys. I'm going to skedaddle out of here, but I will see you next week on Easter Sunday, and we're going to celebrate the fact that we have a God who conquers everything, conquers death, conquers, just the impossible. He is a God who surfaces time and time and again, and he says, I will not be undone. You will not have me, and my ways are definitely not any other person or any other being's ways. I'm a God who surfaces and I'm a God who conquers, and we are going to explore that next week. So I'm looking forward to it, and I will see you then. All right, have an awesome week. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.